sent me here a message to Anja. And I think we will start already if people are joining later, because they are having their lunch later. So I'm pretty sure they must start and dive right into what we are doing here. So let me first welcome you all here to our it's our first Lunch and Learn webinar. We've done a few webinars before already, like once a month, and this is our first one on lunchtime, which we hope to establish more in the future. And thank you, Sara and Lisa from HRpepper, for being our guest speakers today. As I said, my name is Anja from Kenjo, and we speak today about a topic that is really important. And the amount of people attending the webinar right now over their lunch break are proof of it. I believe like over 100 people signed up to this course. So there's a big demand for companies going digital in their HR. And as you know, in this webinar, we've teamed up with HRpepper to talk you through these steps in digitizing your HR processes. We are really thankful for HRpepper joining us, as they're one of Germany's leading management consulting firms. And Senior Consultant Sara Ivers-Tiffée and Senior Expert Lisa Rostock of HRpepper will take you through standardizing manual HR processes to make them compatible and able to enter the technological age. So before we start, let me just say a few words about the structure of the webinar and ourselves before we can kick off this webinar. So it will last roughly about an hour, and we will conduct it in English, just because we want to be inclusive of all non-native speakers who attend this webinar, because some of them are from Spain or all over Europe, basically. Sara and Lisa will start with a brief introduction and general overview. And if you do have any questions, please type them into here. I will collect them. I already collected all the questions from you, which you had when you signed up. And then I collect them, and at the end of the webinar, there will be time where we will where Sara and Lisa can answer them. However, please be aware if like not all questions can be answered in this short amount of time, but you can always email me or Sara and Lisa, and then we can personally just follow up on your questions. Also, we record this webinar, and in the next few days, we will send you a follow-up email with a link to this webinar, but also to the presentation. So you don't really need to make notes and just enjoy your lunch also. Let me just also say a few things about Kenjo. So if you could just switch the slide onto the next in this presentation. Kenjo is an all-in-one HR software and specialized in taking HR digital. That's why we do the webinar as well. So we provide the right tools to digitally transform any small and medium-sized company to accompany employees on their full company lifestyle experience. So at the core of our software lies employee engagement and satisfaction. So we help companies to build a true feedback culture and boost engagement with our many features like the employee surveys, performance management, eNPS scores, which basically is all able and probably better done digital. So let me show an example of how we've helped our customers with our customer FinCompare, which is a Berlin-based finance platform. So yeah, exactly here you see a quote from Claudius, who's the HR person at FinCompare, and they were able to reduce 60% of their HR software budget and 30% of time spent on HR admin with a digital tool like Kenjo, and that allowed them to spend more time for culture growth and mindset. So if you hop on to the next slide, FinCompare was looking for an all-in-one HR software to streamline all their HR processes. The HR software needed to be GDPR compliant and also needed to help them to change the mindset and culture of their workplace so that employees can truly reach their full potential during their employee journey at FinCompare. So in brief, they were looking for a people's tool like Kenjo is really. And with the help of Kenjo, they developed a full top-to-bottom digital transformation using Kenjo as a sparring partner really for the leadership teams. They fully automated their performance reviews, for example, for every employee to complete so that they can monitor all developments throughout the year, which basically means whereas before they had 70 employees individually talking to them, going back and forth, and like HR really dreading probably to organize all this. Now being able to do digitally, it's incredibly simple. So they can offer now more transparency about their employees' activities and make their teams feel heard and valued. Yeah, and that's basically an example. You can also read that on our website in the case study section, or email me for more questions. If you have more questions on how we've helped, for example, this particular client. And on that note, before I talk too much about us, I'm just handing over the mic to Sara and Lisa. And I'm excited to hear about what you have to say about the subject.
Great. Thank you, Anja, for this introduction. Since you've already well explained what Lisa and I do, I don't want to say too much about us. You can also find a detailed profile on us either on LinkedIn or our website. What Lisa and I share is the love for digitalization in HR. Now, kidding aside, most projects that Lisa and I do really concern digitalization in HR, and I think what we're showing you today will explain a little bit how our common approach is in that area. If I think my internet connection is not perfect, so if you cannot understand me clearly, just I don't know, maybe write a little chat note, then I will try to change something. But I think so far it's good. So what you can see here is our 6 practices at HRpepper. We are a consulting firm that was founded 9 years ago, and we are located in Berlin on Tempelhofer Ufer. Many of you might know that. And yeah, we are still quite small, I would say, about 40 employees. But we have quite some different topics that we focus on. And here you can see, for example, what we do is we assess competencies. So, for example, we help companies design assessment centers and development centers to really find out what are the right people for specific roles. We are not a recruiting company, so we don't do basically headhunting or something like that. We are more focusing on the strategic side. What kind of assessment is the right one to select your personnel. That is just one area where we focus on. You can see we also help companies enable their people, which is quite a general term here, but it means that we design learning and development strategies. And also, of course, since there is a lot of digitalization that is happening, we also help, for example, select the right learning and development platform and implement it in the company. Then under 3 and 4, you can see changing cultures and transforming organizations. This, I would say, are the projects that are long lasting normally, sometimes 2 or 3 years even. And that is where we help companies really tackle problems they have, for example, in their company culture. Some companies are, for example, growing fast, and they might have difficulties changing their culture from a startup culture to a more established company. And there, we really work closely with the company. Sometimes even, for me, sometimes it feels like I'm part of that company myself. We help them basically on a daily or weekly basis, navigating through a transformation process. And then number 5 here, shaping HR, is probably that area where we have the biggest overlap with what Kenjo does, because we look at key HR processes or products and try to analyze and optimize them, and then also, of course, digitalize them. And the last one, developing strategies, is one of our smaller fields, I would say, but with the clients that we have been working together for many years, they trust us even in non-HR related topics, and there we also help them develop strategies while outside of HR, anything basically they want. Exactly, so that's a little intro on HRpepper. We can go to the next slide, and we prepared a little check-in for you. You can see a QR code, or you can go to menti.com and use the code 52100237. We prepared some questions for you, so we understand who is in the audience today and where you stand yourself on digitalization of your HR tasks. And Lisa will now share the Menti screen when everybody has logged in. For the ones, I think normally it also shows the code here, right? I don't see it right now. Okay, I think people are already voting. Exactly. First question. So we prepared, I think, 3 or 4 questions. First question is, how do you post your job ads, track candidates, schedule interviews, and take hiring decisions? Are you more on the ATS side, so you already are automated and have a system in place, or do you mainly use Excel lists, mails, and calls? We have 8 answers so far. Wait a little bit. Great, 12 answers. As Anja said in the beginning, some of you are probably eating, so it might be difficult to hold a fork and a smartphone at the same time. But we'll wait a little while longer in case somebody else wants to answer. And then I think, yeah, that's interesting to see. So it seems like some of you are already have an ATS in place, and others are still working with Excel. And I guess Menti wants to tell us that this blue mountain, that is the layer underneath, shows us a little bit like a shift to the right side. Okay, I think we have 18 answers. That's around about 50% of the participants. I think that's fine. We could go to the next slide maybe. Great. So now we have a question regarding HR governance. Basically, yeah, we are interested. What is your approach to HR governance? Are you completely data-driven? Do you do data-driven forecasting? You know, you have your reports, your analysis, and more on the data side, or is it more human decision-making? You talk to your colleagues, get an opinion maybe from a consultant, and then take a decision. So far, we are more on the left side. That I think also, yeah, reflects a little bit what we see in our clients when we have client projects. That what sounds so nice, basically, when you start digitalizing your projects, that you have all this data that you can use to forecast and actually predict what might happen in the future, is a possibility, but not so many people are using it yet. Maybe you have a ATS or like another system HR tool in place, but are you actually using the data is a very interesting question that that we can discuss later as well. Thank you. I think 14 answers. Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, next slide. Focusing on learning. How do you enable self-organized learning and development for your workforce? So do you already have an employee experience platform? So like a really fun place where learning is just an amazing experience, or is it more analog trainings? You know, maybe you have a training catalog that people can choose from. And of course, like looking at the current COVID situation, probably most of your employees might not be able to attend trainings at all because, well, it's all analog and not happening right now. So that would be very interesting for us. So interesting, a lot of people are on the analog side. And then also, of course, employee experience platform is a very extreme, let's say, state that we also don't really see in that many clients. Most people maybe have a learning management system in place, you know, where you can administer or like, I don't know, share some e-learnings, for example. But this really cool platform that we all hope for to have in a company one day is not really present yet. Great. I think we have one more question. HR core. So very interesting, and of course that area where Kenjo software can help you. How do you manage your HR core data, your time management, for example, and your absence management? Do you have a cloud HRIS system in place, or similar to the recruiting, maybe you still use Excel and you don't have a standard tool that you use? Okay, so here we have a shift to the right side. So some of you already have a cloud tool in place. That is good to hear. Great. Okay, maybe wait one more second if somebody else wants to answer. Wonderful. Okay, I think that, yeah, overall gives us a good impression that some of you started to digitalize in some areas of HR already, but it's always, yeah, it's different. And what we also see is that a lot of people start with HR core topics. And for example, learning and development is a thing that, you know, some people only start digitalizing after they have their core processes digitalized. So that fits the image a little bit of what we see when we work with our clients. Thank you very much so far. Then we will go back to our board. And now I think, yes, Lisa, thank you. We will take you on a journey. You can see a nice mountain here because at HRpepper, we like to make it a bit, you know, fun, basically learning new things. And that's why we came up with this image of a mountain that should symbolize your way to digitalization. So basically your way to the top. You can see on top you have clouds. Of course, that's a joke at that point. And also it doesn't show us what is on the top. Does the mountain go higher or not? What is on top of everything? We don't know yet. But what we want to show you is how you can start in several steps to get digital. And yes, thank you, Lisa. What you can see here on the left side is a gondola with 4 stations, and that should symbolize our digital maturity levels that we have defined at HRpepper. And the overall message here is that, you know, some people maybe still work on paper, you know, they don't have anything digitalized. So they would be the ones who start on the first level. And of course, you know, they can just, you know, jump into the gondola and drive to the next level. Or even they say, hey, I want to do 2 levels at a time, and maybe don't even get out of the gondola on the first level, but maybe on the second level. But some of you probably are already quite digitalized, and they maybe jump in on level 3, and they will just drive to level 4 and maybe further. We don't know yet. It just symbolizes basically that digitalization is not a thing that you do and then you're done. It shows that, you know, it depends where you jump in and what you want to reach. And yeah, we will show you in the next step what these levels contain. So the first level, starting at the bottom, you know, normally you do not have started digitalization, as I just said. Maybe you're completely analog, working with paper. We have a lot of clients, especially in the public sector, that are, we all would probably consider as quite old school. They have all their paper documentation, they print everything, and nothing is in some sort of a system. Of course, what we still also would count to the first level is people that are still working with Excel, and what the main difference here is to people that are already digitalized or have a system in place is that you have one place where you store your core data. And here at the first level, you don't have this place. So you cannot just log into a system and see, okay, who are my employees? You have to open, 3 different files to get an overview about that. And of course, at that level, you are not data driven and you do not have any interfaces in place. And of course, no more mobile support. That would describe the first level. You have no system landscape in place. And Lisa's jumping to the next, perfect. But I think looking at the second level, it will get more clear what the first level also is not, basically. So here we have scattered system landscape. So that means here and there you might already work with some tools, but it's scattered. So it's not one seamless experience for the employee. Maybe you have to do your you book your vacation and you have to log into system A. And then, you maybe have to do some learning and development and e-learning or something, and you get a separate link via email, or you have a separate system where you have to log in and do your e-learning there. So you have many different tools that do not communicate with each other, and you have to basically navigate yourself in that landscape. And what's also interesting here on the second level is that in rare cases, yes, maybe there might be some mobile apps available. So some tools, they're, if you, for example, have decided in the last months to install maybe okay, maybe that's a bad example. I wanted to say a travel tool, but nobody is traveling. But that is quite common. We see in travel tools nowadays that you can just scan your hotel bill or whatever with your phone and send it to a system, and then it can be done in the back end. And you don't have to print something and then send it to the travel department or anything like that. So, in some areas you will feel that relief that digitalization can give us, but it's still quite rare. Okay, and the third level, our gondola is a bit, I think, slow today, but there it is an integrated ecosystem landscape, which means that you still might have different tools in place, but they're all integrated and also can include mobile apps. So the biggest differentiator to the stage before is probably that looking from an employee perspective, the experience you have when going through all these different things you have to do at work is seamless, basically. So you don't have this list. So for example, I still have that for my personal things. I have a long list with all these passwords for all these different tools that I use, because I just cannot remember all of them. And then I have to log in here and there and there. And here you might have one big login, and then behind that everything looks just as coming out of one system, but maybe in the back end it's 3 or 5 or 20 different systems that are connected. And of course, for that you need very good interfaces, which also means that data is communicating in the back end. And that's probably the biggest differentiator from stage 2 to 3, that you build these interfaces, because also looking at the market, there are very little tools that really have interfaces that work right away. You probably all heard of API and so on. I mean, you are able to share data, but sometimes it's still quite limited what we can do nowadays. Exactly. One more thing to add here, sorry, but it's also part of stage. Okay, thank you, Lisa. One more thing to add here is maybe the data-driven point here, usage of HR data for evaluation and improvement, which is quite interesting, because of course, if you have a system in place, or even multiple systems, then you can also draw reports, analyze them, and learn from what you're seeing in the data, and also do some predictions with that. Great, thank you. The next stage is the final stage that we have defined so far. We are pretty sure that in the future there will be a 5th or 6th stage. And this one, well, is called automated landscape, including AI support. And honestly speaking, that is not a stage that we see in clients that often. But I think that might also be the case that most people that come to us are obviously struggling with digitalization. And therefore, maybe we don't see these, super exciting companies that you sometimes hear in podcasts or in news articles or whatever, that are already using a lot of AI in decision making. To highlight here maybe is that we have a mobile first strategy in place. That means it's really a different approach. It's really a different mindset that you apply here. And HR admin tasks. So, things like, I don't know, if you have to write a report or like a report card for an employee, or if they need something for one of their insurances or whatever, you can just click a button, or not even that. It's just, the employer can just download it themselves, and you don't have to do anything as a human in that process per se. And again, here is probably, you already have a feeling about that in stage 3, but in stage 4, it's obviously basically even perfected the employee experience. It's a very cool UX design that just really makes it fun to do these processes and tasks you have to do on a daily basis. It could be, for example, gamified landscape or something like that. So I think this stage would be interesting to hear your opinions if maybe you're one of these companies who are already quite far in that sense. What Lisa and I are seeing on the market, most people are around stage 2 or 3, I would say, that we work with. Exactly, these were our 4 stages of digital maturity. As I started with, basically, you can jump in stage 3 and go to stage 4, or start at 2 and go to 3. It really depends on you. But we think that these 4 stages will help you, basically look at your own company and see where are we at actually. Like where would you put your I don't know what that is in English actually. Where are you currently at your company? It's just nice to look at it from a meta perspective before you actually go into the digitalization process itself. And with that, I will give the word to my colleague Lisa. If she's still there.
Exactly. So these are the 4 stages, and we've shown you this gondola, which looks like you could just jump into one of these and then drive up to the peak automatically. That actually isn't quite how it's working. That's why we also have this rocky, winding path that will follow through up the peak of this mountain. And I think actually, to be honest, that's the way you will have to go. It's a long process, and it's a complex process, and sometimes it takes a while, and you also have like complications that you have to overcome to reach the peak, but it's worth the trip. And I think that's really the future, and we all can't just stay here at the bottom of this mountain. This is not like a Sunday event where you can say, okay, I do this, or I stay home, Netflix and chill. This is not really the option that we have right here, because this is what each and every company will make sustainable and compatible in the future. So this is a mountain you all have to climb, and some can go a little bit slower and some must be a bit faster, but definitely for all of us, it's time to start the journey. And as we have seen in the Mentimeter, a little questionnaire, you already are on this journey right now. And we just would support you in structuring your journey a bit better. And that's why we will suggest 5 steps of climbing this digital mountain. And the 5 steps are from strategizing and planning to tool selection, process optimization, the implementation period itself, and then the go live and operations, so keeping a system running once it's live. And yes, in the next minutes, we will take you this journey up the mountain, our 5 steps. And to start with this, we of course have to have a look on our process landscape, our HR service portfolio, which are the processes we would like to digitize. And we've put together like a little systematic overview of which processes you all have in your HR department around the employee life cycle. So it starts with the talent acquisition. And then we also, of course, have the HR core processes like core data management, time management, but also payroll. So the basic components everyone have. And then we got learning and talent management. So processes that are even more like cultural specific within organizations. So the way you do performance management, the way you define talents, the way you do succession planning, this can vary very much. It's a little bit less standardized than the HR core processes, I would say. We have total rewards and people analytics. It's very important basis also for strategic workforce planning and forecasting. We got organizational development and change management, and then all the supporting processes that we summarize as governance, so HR strategy, compliance, legal, health, co-determination, all topics that nowadays are not yet like fully supported with the standard cloud suites, I would say. And then we have a topic, HR IT management, which is basically like a supporting process, thinking about how you can put together your new target operating model, because HR and IT have to come closer. It's not like one does the system and one does the processes. You really have to find a way to get more aligned and have a common target operating model when setting up cloud HR. And basically just climbing this digital mountain, that's one part you have to consider. So this is just an overview, but basically not depending on which process area you choose. Our steps are quite universal, I would say. And there are tools like Kenjo, which support quite a lot of these processes around our employee lifecycle. But then also you have like specific tools that only capture one area, like matching of people to projects, for example, and then you have a specific tool. So yeah, depending on your strategic approach and the question you have and the pain you have to heal with the tool or with the digitalization, depends on which tool you will choose. And this basically brings us to our first step, which is, oh no, that's our maturity level. This is our first step, strategy and goal. So before you start your hike, you first can sit down on the bench and think about how do you want to approach this journey. So why do you want to digitize? What is really your change story? What's your motivation? And of course, how does this link to your strategy and to your digital strategy as well? So yeah, only start this journey once you know why you do this. That's our approach. You should have a clear goal, a measurable goal, and also a clear prioritization, which process area you want to tackle first, or which is the pain point that's most urgent at the moment. And this might also be based on specific frameworks, like a license is running out from your old LMS tool, or you have to standardize because you combine different localizations, or you buy like another merger and acquisition or things like that, or the employee or candidate experience just is not very well, and you can see that because you have problems with the talent acquisition, for example. So those should be the prioritization steps that you should take. And then, of course, calculate the business case and analyze the long-term value of digitalization. And we specifically say long-term because sometimes in the short term, it's more expensive. You have to pay licenses, and also you have a lot of effort. The project takes resources, but really think about the long-term investment. And Anja has shown us the example of the Kenjo project where you can really lower costs and higher efficiency. You need a strong sponsor. That's really one of the key success factors in our opinion. Have a strong sponsorship for the project and know your key stakeholders and how you will involve them throughout your journey. And make sure everyone is on board, not just do the project and inform the company later on, but think that ahead in time already in your strategy and planning phase. And the decisions you will have to take is first the decision on investing at all, and then of course how much you would like to invest when it comes to time and money, and also how flexible you will be with your processes and your tools, tool landscape that you have. So whether you have a brown field where you have to incorporate your new tool in an existing landscape and match your processes, new processes to old processes, or whether you say, no, we will really start like freshly on a green field and use the tool and the processes that our software provider best fits the solution. So this is the first step. We always put together those three components: questions to ask, steps to take, and decisions to make. And you will recognize these with our next steps around our journey. So back to our mountain, we're now at a junction. This junction brings us to the tool selection. We can either go this one direction, and then this will take us a specific path, and we can also choose another one, but we have to take those decisions on which tool we want to select, but also maybe which material you want to take to your journey. Like, is it a torch that you need? Is it like a binocular, or do you need a backpack? Like really packing your stuff together and get this journey forward. So let's have a look into tool selection. Here we have, I think, a huge amount of tools on the market, and I'm pretty sure, and this is what we see with our clients, this feels overwhelming because the market is just full of tools. It's like exploding. Every other month you have even more. So you really have to have a good strategy on how to select your tool and asking yourself the right questions and having like a strategic, criteria-oriented selection process. First of all, you can choose whether you want to have a suite, like a tool that combines different modules across the employee lifecycle, or a specific tool like best of breed, as I explained earlier. And then, of course, pricing makes a difference. We have huge tools on the markets that are more expensive, but when it comes to customization and like large scaling with huge companies, they are a little bit more powerful. But then we also have like smaller, very versatile, very pragmatic tools, which might fit perfectly your need as a middle or standard size company. So make sure you have the right criteria and you know which are requirements that are a must-have for your processes and which are nice to have, how much you would like to invest, and also how you want to host the solution. And we specifically focus on cloud solutions here. Of course, you could also buy your on-premise solution, but yeah, that's not exactly the future anymore. So it's more about which hosting option for your cloud solution, software as a service or self-hosted, you would want to choose. And then also take into account all the general framing conditions, like the functionalities, the user experience, the technical details, GDPR, all of that. You should make a list, a criteria list, and then based on that list, make a short list of the vendors that fit your requirements, and invite these to a demo, and really take time for this tool selection. The better you already know what you buy, the better your implementation will be. I've seen a lot of implementations where like the sales department of the tool provider was very strong and they bought the tool, but then in the end, when it comes to really defining your processes and going into the details, you feel like, well, I expected this to be more like this or more like that. So take time for this tool selection process, because it actually will define pretty much of how your processes will look like. They are all quite customizable, but in the end, the tool always works best with the standard process approach the tool provider recommends. So you should make sure that this recommended best practice approach is basically what you think fits your company with regards to the functions, but also, and this is very important, the culture. So choose a tool that fits your cultural requirements, like transparency, like self-organization, like those new work approaches. So Kenjo, for example, I think, reflects like a very specific way of organizational culture, and make sure you know this specific cultural background of a tool, like the working approach they have, so that you can know whether it fits your company or not. I think that's an important topic, to involve the right stakeholders right from the beginning when it comes to the tool selection. So this would be our second stage. And when you selected the tool, you can continue your journey climbing up that mountain. And then we highlighted here like a little rocky, stony, winding path. And this path highlights our process optimization. So after planning and strategizing what you want to achieve and selecting your tool, it's about preparing the implementation phase. And this is even more important when you have a big company, when you have to harmonize processes across countries, across legal entities, across cultural backgrounds, when it comes to like regional spread around the world. Then this is really about harmonizing processes, because what works best is in the tool when you have a clear governance approach of what should be standardized and centralized, and which parts of the tool can have like local degrees of freedom, I would say. So make sure you have a proper approach to process optimization, process harmonization before you really start into the implementation. But, and that's also very important, not do it on a green field, just like that, but already with the functionalities of the tool in mind. And with saying that, let's jump into our third step, the process optimization. So here you can see the process optimization overview. And as said, the governance is important. To what degree can you standardize and harmonize your processes, and how much degrees of freedom do you want to give to specific localizations, or also when it comes to specific target groups, for example, like how much standardization, how much localization do you want to identify. So here are topics like global template and localization important. You might have heard that already. So most tools work with an approach where you start by standardizing like a global template, and then going into the localizations and seeing which are the gaps, the functional gaps towards the global template, and then defining on whether you want to apply for legal gaps or functional requirements or corporate requirements. And with that, you will get to processes that best fit your organization, but that also are based on the functionalities of the system, because then it will work best. If you work with the functionalities in the system and you stay close to the standard and only customize where you really have like legal or corporate requirements that you cannot neglect. And of course, we've put together some criteria for your process optimization, and technical feasibility and standardization are only some of them. What's also super important, of course, is the employee experience. Start with the employee. How do you want the employee to feel and to behave while using the process, and to create the most value for the customer in the end. And for that, we use a lot of like design thinking tools and think about customer journeys or moments that matter to really make sure the process is designed in a way that it best fits the customer's requirements. And then, of course, we have efficiency as an important topic, and again, our cultural and strategic fit. As said, I think there's processes where this is more important, like performance management and talent management. When it comes to payroll, I think there is not really a question of cultural fit. But regarding of the processes we're talking about, you have a wide range of cultural aspects that you also have to like actively manage and decide for before you start with the implementation. And then, of course, your processes should be sustainable, so designed in a way when it comes to responsibilities and tasks that they can work for longer than just the duration of the implementation. So really like a sustainable approach to process optimization. That's our third step of the journey. Let's have a look back on our complete mountain. Where is it? Here we go. So we are now here walking down this stony road. We've optimized our processes, and now we will jump into the implementation itself. The implementation really depends on the tool. Sometimes implementation projects last very long and they are very complex, but it can also be faster. And here it's of course about selecting the external provider or deciding you will do it in-house on your own, but definitely securing the resources that you need. It's about testing very thoroughly and including the right end users in testing already. And the decisions you have to take are basically very, very varying. So it can be 1,000 little tiny decisions when it comes to user interface, but there's also big decisions like whether you do development for the entire company because you define everyone as a talent, or you do it only for a specific group that you define as high potential. So things like that are very big decisions with cultural impact, but there's also like very small decisions. And what's also very important here is your permissions concept. So have a strong but pragmatic approach to role-based permissions in the system, and make it fit to your company and make it in a sustainable way so that they are dynamic and you don't have to rethink the permissions whenever someone enters the company or leaves the company. So a dynamic and pragmatic approach to role-based permission is important in the implementation phase as well. With a look at the time, I will jump to our fifth and last step of our journey, which is the go live and keep the system running. That's how we call it. And the most important message we want to send here is that the go live of your cloud HR tool is not the end, but basically the beginning of everything. And yeah, after that, the continuous improvement starts, the release management starts, and really the operation of the system. And that's where we think you need a strong target operating model between HR and IT and have a clear approach on how to do the continuous improvement and the business support when it comes to release management, incident management, and general improvement of the processes and the tool functionalities. Because you will not go live with the tool that's final and ready and perfect, but rather like a maybe not a minimum viable product, but something in between. So don't aim for a perfect tool with the go live, but start and then work on it over and over again. It's like a cycle, and that's why we've put together our little skiing guys on this slope here, because it's like skiing. You have the fun going down, but then you also have the effort again to go up to have the fun of skiing down again. So that's how the tool operation basically work. And this is our 5-step approach of taking HR digital. And I think I've talked about that now, also our do's and don'ts, and I will just show them just a second so that you know you will find them on our board once we will send them to you after our session. So we've put together some success factors, do's and don'ts for your journey towards this digital peak. And just to summarize, the most important for us is really actively manage change and communicate with your stakeholders. Don't think it's an IT topic only. It's even not an HR topic only. It's a change that will involve and influence, impact your whole corporate, your whole company when it comes to the way you work together and the way the employee feels and experience their employee life cycle at your company. So it's a way bigger topic than just between HR and IT, and that's the key message that's important for us here today. So these are our 5 steps, and Anja.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa and Sarah. Was really interesting, and I think the point came really across that to not be afraid to take some time and money at the beginning initially into your hands in order to spend a few weeks or months into establishing a smooth new digital process, and then thinking in the long term in terms of strategizing this whole digital HR process. And I think the graphic of the mountain going through little serpentines, a bit hilly and full of rocks, and then smoothly down, I think that's a good metaphor for what this process stands for. We have a few minutes more time, and we still have a good 35 people here. I would love to ask a few questions people had when they were signing up for the course. And I would love you, either you, Sarah or Lisa, to answer them. So one of the questions was, if you had to, like you just said, the do's and don'ts and the pros and cons, what would be the biggest advantage of having a digitized systems if you would need to sell it to your boss, I think? What would you say?
Mm-hmm. One big advantage definitely is a common database, because data is one of our most valuable things we will have in future. That's what it basically is. And with the data, you can really predict and prognose on the way your company will develop. And I think it's important to have like a central database for performance management, for succession planning, for recruiting. It will involve most of your employee lifecycle key processes. And if you have that in one tool, you can really leverage the synergies that you have while integrating those different modules with each other. For example, when you in succession planning realize you don't have a successor for a specific role, and you just tick a box and say, bring that one to a job requisition in recruiting because it's in the same tool, and that works just like that without calling 5 different colleagues, that's the big advantage, leveraging the synergies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, and maybe to add to that, as you can see in this image here, we really like to work with metaphors or analogies. And I think, you just have to look at a field where, data has helped us prevent things or like foresee things. For example, look at the weather. We started, I don't know how many years ago, to really collect data on the weather on so many different areas in the world. And this really helps us now to foresee like a hurricane season or an earthquake or whatever. And that's really a thing where everybody is profiting in the end, right? And of course, this is completely different data here that we are collecting, but the idea is the same. You collect some data, then you look at it, and then you make sense of it. You have a hypothesis, and then you can see, does it make sense? Does it not make sense? And to really make that, you need a lot of data. So it's good to start now, and maybe you don't see the advantage right now, but maybe in 5 years you look back and you have all this data you can analyze, and hopefully by then all people in HR will be super keen on analyzing data, you know, because you need some competencies and skills to actually do that. But I think, you know, that always helps to see where has data helped us at different areas in our life, and that's like helping to understand why it's also a good idea for HR.
Definitely. With the look of the time, we have 3 more minutes. And there's like, I have a bunch of more questions. Maybe one question which was being asked was quite interesting. Having said right now how important it is and the most biggest advantage, how can we make, however, the whole implementation process less time and resource consuming? Do you have any tips on that? I don't know, you could answer it like that in an hour.
Very good question. I think you have to understand and respect that it's time consuming and also cost intensive, and just have a good business case that highlights that it's worth it. But what makes it a bit more pragmatic, of course, is like an agile approach, like iterative, as said, not aiming for the perfect thing, but just starting with a minimum viable product, taking it live, even maybe just in a pilot phase, seeing how it works, and then improve it from time to time in an iterative approach, instead of having like a huge project 1 year or whatever, and then saying, okay, once we go live, it's perfect and we will not change it again. That's the wrong approach. You should really aim for iterations and improvement steps, and take it live already on an early stage, maybe only with a pilot group.
Yes. And that is also why the later stages or the later steps that we showed, you know, implementation and process optimization, sometimes you go back and forth, because you start with like prioritized processes that you optimize, that you implement, and that you roll out maybe even, and then you realize, okay, maybe these 3 or 5 processes I don't even need in the future anymore, you know, and you only learn that when you're in the system. So of course this is not one A, B, C, but sometimes you go back and forth, and that's what Lisa meant by, you know, doing it iteratively, basically going back to the beginning and up again. And this is why you only get better at hiking if you do it multiple times, right?
Yeah, totally. And also, I think implementing an all-in-one tool could help, like going step by step, thinking of it like a mountain, using one by one, getting the help and the most important things in the beginning, and then eventually working it out, because a lot of people like to actually work with tools they already know, and then once they don't need to do it all at once, gets maybe the angst or the fear away of using something new, which I think we all, and many people have, when they have a new digital project going on. Yes. Do you have like a few more minutes maybe to ask? I thought this question was rather interesting in terms of what's the biggest barrier for small businesses implementing a tool. Probably a lot of small businesses think we are too small, we don't need it, we can save time and money just doing it the old Excel style. Can you recommend something for smaller companies?
I mean, maybe like one idea that just came to my head. I mean, you know, we've talked a lot about Kenjo as well, and I know the software by now, and I think that's actually quite a new movement on the market, that there are tools specifically designed for smaller companies. And because of course, you know, if I like the same from our company HRpepper, we are 40 people, why should we implement like the whole SAP landscape? You know, it's crazy. I mean, we don't need it. It's way too expensive. You need, most companies who have SAP in place have like 5 to 10 consultants who just do that internally, right? Just set up the system. And now we have so many tools that we really can set up in a way shorter time. So implementation time is really way shorter than what we've seen like 10 or 20 years ago. So that is, of course, an advantage, helping small companies like take this first step. But Lisa, maybe you have another good idea, like why? I mean, it's still the data thing. Also, a small company can profit from that. I mean, why not, right? I mean, maybe they want to grow, or maybe they want to specialize, or whatever. But the data will definitely help to keep track on what their strategy and goals are.
I agree. Basically, the case is the same then for the big companies. Data will help. Also, it's a competitive advantage regarding the user experience when we think about recruiting. If you can apply in a tool easily with one click, uploading your CV or linking it to your LinkedIn profile or things like that, you might be rather interested in applying to that company than to another. And this war for talent also impacts the small companies. So I think it's the right time to start using a tool, and there are great tools on the market that are focusing especially on smaller companies, and they have the same questions than the big ones when it comes to fighting for the same talents. So I think that's an important reason.
Totally. And also, especially with the need of remote work, which we've all seen this year and last year, being able to actually have access to your files and data, also GDPR compliant, to not actually go physically to an office and go through folders, but have them in a cloud, access them, not only for you, but each employee. Is gold in the future, more and more so. So people will work more maybe on a mix remote and office, and that gives them the possibility to access wherever they are in a safe environment, GDPR compliant. So
very good point,
it is definitely important. I think we could probably have a whole new content for another webinar, because this topic is complex and there's a lot of questions, but I would love to wrap it up. Lunchtime is almost over, but thank you very much, Sara and Lisa, for your time and insights. It was really interesting, and as I said, I have recorded this webinar, so we will send out an email later today or tomorrow with the recorded version of this webinar, as well as access to the presentation, so you can actually see all these steps needing to take, and you can also email back to me, or find Sara and Lisa on LinkedIn, or email them. There is access on the last 2 slides of this presentation, where you find their contact details. So don't be shy to contact them for any questions, and we will get back to you. Also, if you now like to try out a free 14 days trial on an HR software tool like Kenjo, you can sign up to our free trial, and just click around how digital performance reviews, for example, look like, and just check for ourselves how intuitive it really is to use it. Also, we will be doing another webinar really soon on April the 20th on recruiting international executive roles. And our guest speakers for that webinar will be Tina Holmes, who's the Director of HR at Amorelli, then CPO Michael Becher from WeFox, and Daniel Elis from Vinted, who's the Head of People there. So we would love to invite you there as well. And soon we will be sending out invitations for that webinar. But if you have any questions for that webinar, of course, you can contact me here at Kenjo directly. So we hope this really has helped you. And I wish you a happy day today and happy Easter soon coming. So